Welcome everyone. In the last class, we have seen basics of ultrasonic sound and properties of ultrasonic sound. Also, we have seen the basics involved in the production of sound. Today, we are going to discuss about how to produce ultrasonic sound. As I told in the last class, there are two methods that we are going to discuss. The first method is magnetosticks oscillator method. The second method is piezoelectric oscillator method. Magnetosticks oscillator method. So to understand this, we first know what is magnetosticks effect. When a magnetic field is applied parallel to the length of a ferromagnetic rod made up of materials such as iron or nickel, a small elongation or contraction occurs in its length. This is known as magnetosticks effect. Here in the first figure you can see, so this is a ferromagnetic rod. This one consists of many magnetic domains. So each magnetic domain acts as a small magnet. When there is no external magnetic field, these small magnetic domains aligned randomly in such a way that there will be no net internal magnetic field, but each magnetic domain has its own internal magnetic field. But the magnetic domains are aligned randomly in such a way that the magnetic field produced by one domain will be cancelled by other domains. Hence, there will be zero net internal magnetic field for this ferromagnetic rod. But if we apply an external magnetic field as shown in the second figure, here the magnetic rod is placed between two magnets. The north pole of a magnet is here and south pole of magnet is placed in the other side. So in this situation, the magnetic field direction will be towards right side. Hence, the magnetic domains are aligned according to the external magnetic field. That is south north, south north, south north, south north. So during this alignment, the length of the rod slightly increased in the order of micrometer. It depends on the strength of the magnetic field and the length of the material. So this effect we call magnetosticks effect. If we remove the external magnetic field, it comes to its original length, and again the magnetic domains aligned randomly in such a way that there will be no internal net magnetic field. But in this case, there will be a net internal magnetic field. Again, if we apply a magnetic field as shown in the figure 3, that is, the south pole of a magnet is here and a north pole of magnet is placed here. So in this situation, the direction of magnetic field is towards left. So now the magnetic domains are aligned as north south, north south, north south. So in this situation also, length of the rod slightly increased. So here we have applied a constant magnetic field. But what will happen if we apply a alternating magnetic field as shown in this figure? So here this graph is plotted magnetic field versus time. So initially the magnetic field is 0. As time evolves, the magnetic field increased and reaches a maximum and then decreased to 0, and again it increased but in negative direction and it reaches to maximum and again comes to 0. So this is one cycle. So during one cycle, the magnetic field reaches maximum twice, once in positive direction and another time in negative direction. So if we apply such a magnetic field to the ferromagnetic rod, the ferromagnetic rod vibrates in this manner. So initially the magnetic field is 0 and increase to maximum value. At this time the length of the rod will also increase and the magnetic field becomes 0. Length of the rod becomes to its original length. After that, magnetic field is increased towards left direction At the time also the length of the rod slightly increased. Again it comes to original length as the magnetic field becomes 0. So in this way the ferromagnetic rod vibrates. As discussed in the last lecture, to produce sound we have to vibrate some material. So now we have achieved the vibration in the ferromagnetic rod. So now we have to vibrate the material with a frequency more than 20,000 Hz in order to produce ultrasonic sound. The change in length depends on the intensity of the applied magnetic field and the nature of the ferromagnetic material. The change in length is independent of the direction of the field. Theoretically, the frequency of vibration is twice of the frequency of the alternating magnetic field. Here, I have shown the simplest model to produce ultrasonic sound. The ferromagnetic rod placed inside a coil and the coil connected to a alternating power supply. So when you switch on this power supply, the alternating current passes through the coil. When alternating current passes through the coil, it produces alternating magnetic field. So because of the alternating magnetic field, the rod vibrates at a frequency twice the frequency of the power source frequency. During the vibration, the both ends of the rod collides with the air molecule that produces sound. If the power supply has a frequency more than 10,000 Hz, we get ultrasonic sound with a frequency more than 20,000 Hz. Do we have the power supply with a frequency more than 10,000 Hz? To our home, we are getting power supply with a frequency only 50 Hz. So with that, we can vibrate the rod with a frequency only 100 Hz. So it is not enough to produce ultrasonic sound. It just produces ordinary sound only. So we need some special circuit that produces a frequency more than 10,000 Hz. So here I have shown the experimental arrangement, simplest experimental arrangement for the production of the ultrasonic sound. So this is a simplest oscillating circuit. You can say that it converts DC into AC. So here AB is the ferromagnetic rod. It is clamped at the center and both ends of the rod are wounded by coil L1 and L2. The inductance of this coil is L1 and inductance of the coil is L2. The coil L1 is connected parallel with a variable capacitor, and the combination of L1 and C1 we call tank circuit. So this is tank circuit. This tank circuit is connected with the collector of the transistor. The coil L2 is connected with the base of the transistor. So this circuit acts as a feedback circuit and this circuit is tank circuit. When we switch on the power supply, the variable capacitor C1 charges and then it discharges via coil L1. So during the discharge, the current passes through this way. So when current passes through the coil, it produces magnetic field. Because of the magnetic field, the rod elongates. This elongation occurs until the capacitor discharges completely. The rod comes to its original length once the capacitor discharges completely. The capacitor again charges through this way. Now the polarity of the capacitor is changed. Initially, the right side plate has positive charges and left side plate has negative charges. Now, the left side plate has positive charges and the right side plate has negative charges. Again, the capacitor discharges via inductance L1 but in clockwise direction. So during this process also the length of the rod elongated until the capacitor discharges completely. So this process repeated until the power supply is switched off. When a rod elongates, a current induced in the inductance L2. That current passed through the base and amplified by the transistor and it given to the tank circuit. That's why we call it feedback circuit. Using this circuit, we can vibrate the rod to any desired frequency. The ultrasonic sound is produced from the both ends of the ferromagnetic rod. The frequency set in the circuit is equal to 1 by 2 pi root of L1 into C1. L1 and C1 are the inductance and capacitance that connected in the tank circuit. L1, C1. The circuit will try to vibrate the rod with this frequency. So we can change the variable capacitor so that we can set the frequency to our desired frequency. The natural frequency of the rod is given by 1 by 2L root of E by rho, where E is the Young's modulus of the rod, rho is the density of the rod, L is the length of the rod. Here, why we are talking about the natural frequency of the rod? Because every material has its own natural frequency. So, if you vibrate the rod, it will try to vibrate in its natural frequency. But the circuit will try to vibrate the rod with a frequency F1, but the rod try to vibrate with a frequency F2. Hence, the magnitude of the vibration will be less if both the frequencies do not match. If both the frequencies are matched, then resonance will occur. So, because of the resonance, the rod vibrates with the highest amplitude so that we get ultrasonic sound with the highest amplitude. Merits of magnetostriction oscillator. Magnetostrictive materials are easily available, inexpensive and simple to construct. Continuous production of ultrasonic waves with large amplitudes. At low ultrasonic frequencies, large power output is possible without the risk of any damage to the oscillatory circuit. Limitations. It can produce frequencies up to 3 MHz only. It is not possible to get a constant single frequency because rod depends on temperature and the degree of magnetization. As the frequency is inversely proportional to the length of the vibrating rod, to increase the natural frequency, the length of the rod should be decreased, which is practically impossible. Because the rod wounded by 2 coils, so there is a limitation in the length. In the next lecture, we will see the working principle of piezoelectric oscillator method.